Hey guys, it's Ivy. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm super excited about today's video because I'm doing if you like this, then you will like this. And the first book I'm going to talk about is if you like City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, then I think you will like Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And everybody knows what City of Bones is about, but Sorcery of Thorns is about this girl named Elizabeth who lives in this library. She was abandoned as a little girl, and she grows up in the library, and she can talk to the books, and the books talk back to her, and basically she sees something she's not supposed to, and somebody is trying to hurt her, and she's in this huge pursuit with this man named Nathaniel to save the great libraries. The reason I think if you like City of Bones you will like Sorcery of Thorns is because this book is filled with demons, and obviously City of Bones has lots of demons in it and they demon hunt, and same goes for Sorcery of Thorns, but there is a difference between Sorcery of Thorns between City of Bones is some of the demons they can control and they're their servants. Compared to City of Bones, they're just gonna kill them. I think the demon aspect will really intrigue people of either books, so if you like one, you may like the other. Definitely give it a try. The next set of books I'm going to talk about is Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills and The Way You Make Me Feel by Maureen Gu. And in both of these stories, both girls have a hate to love friendship, and that's why I think if you like one you will like the other. There's also a lot of other dynamics in each story. There's schools, girl on girl crime, then there's romance and family dynamics, and I just think that if you're a fan of one you'll be a fan of the other, and they're both pretty short so you could fly through either of them. They're both fantastic reads, and I think that you should totally pick either of them up or both of them if you haven't read either of them. The next books I'm going to talk about, I don't have a physical copy of The Chalk Man, but I read it digitally and it was crazy. And so I think if you're a fan of Stephen King's It, then you will like The Chalk Man by C.J. Tudor. And obviously it is a huge book. The Chalk Man is not. It's less than 300 pages, so it's fairly easy to get through, but both are thrillers. Now Stephen King's book has a different element. Obviously there's Pennywise, and in The Chalk Man it doesn't have that magical realism effect that Stephen King has. I think the 1980s boys on bicycles running the neighborhood with one girl and their gang will interest you in both stories because both stories have that element. Both stories have the element of people coming missing, and both stories have the element of being told in two different timelines. So therefore, if you're a fan of Stephen King's It, I really think you'll enjoy The Chalk Man. I actually enjoyed The Chalk Man more than I enjoyed Stephen King's It, which is saying a lot because it is an incredible story. Definitely, if that book is not on your radar, you should put it on your radar and totally pick it up. So the next two books I have to talk about, they're not similar in the aspect where the stories are similar, although you could find similarities. However, I think that if you enjoyed the audiobook of Illuminae, you will enjoy the audiobook of Leia, Princess of Alderaan, and this is by Claudia Gray, and this is obviously by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So this is obviously a Star Wars story, so it will be a little different than the story of Illuminae. However, they're both told in outer space. Leia's story is before A New Hope, and so I totally, if you're a Star Wars fan, just pick this up regardless because it's awesome. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The narrations of the audiobooks in these are fantastic. Obviously Illuminae is a full cast of characters and there's side effects and there are sound effects, and Aiden is fantastic and it's totally awesome. And the same goes for Leia. There are different sound effects and the droids make droid sounds, and it's just so incredible. Honestly, I would reread both of these books because both of the audiobooks were just so fun to get through, and sometimes audiobooks can drag on or they can be very monotone, and with these they are not, and they're so entertaining and fun and action-packed, and I really enjoyed both stories. So if you're an audiobook person, I highly recommend you checking out the audiobooks for both of these stories. My next recommendation might be a little weird because Tower of Dawn is not the first book in the series, and The Stormcrow is the first book in a series, and they are completely different. I don't want you to get misconstrued and think these stories are similar, because they're not. There are just things that happened in The Stormcrow that I think reminded me of Tower of Dawn. Tower of Dawn is by Sarah J. Maas, and this is by Kaylin Josephson. Basically, the crows in Stormcrows reminded me of the Rooks in the Tower of Dawn, and so I found that a similarity that I think that you guys would like. The same with the different romance that's happening. I totally think the Stormcrow had similarities to Tower of Dawn's romance, and Tower of Dawn is one of the most beautiful books ever written. Come at me, I don't care, but the fact that I'm recommending The Stormcrow compared to Tower of Dawn says a lot about how I enjoyed my reading experience in The Stormcrow, and I think that a lot of people don't want to read Tower of Dawn, so I think if you enjoyed The Stormcrow, you should try Tower of Dawn. But also, if you love Sarah J. Maas and you loved Tower of Dawn, I think that you will enjoy The Stormcrow because of the similarities in the stories. Like I said, the stories are nowhere near similar. They're extremely different, but there's just things or plot points that happen that I think both hold, as well as the villain in The Stormcrow. She's wicked, and I think the villain in Tower of Dawn is extremely wicked as well. So totally read both of these. Then I have Sadie by Courtney Summers and The Female of the Species by Mindy McGinnis, and I think if you loved Sadie, then you will love The Female of the Species, or vice versa. Both are harsh abuse and neglect stories. There's murder in both stories, so be aware of all of that. These are not nice stories. They're very sad and broken and raw and true novels, and I love both of these. Like, Sadie was on my tops list of 2018, and The Female of the Species was on my tops list of 2017, so that says that both of these hold a huge place in my heart. They're both about sisters who lose a sister to abuse and murder, and they're both on the road of vengeance, and they're insanely powerful stories. Sadie is told in part podcast, so that makes this a little different element than Female of the Species. They're both about teenage girls that go through some really hard stuff, and they want revenge, and it tells how that revenge is going to happen and what they have to go through to get there, and the people that they meet along the way. These are powerful books, and I highly recommend both of them. For my next recommendation, I have 3 books to talk about because 2 of them are out already. One of them is released in November, and actually one of them is an adult novel, so it's kind of like a little different thing happening here. But basically, the 2 that are out are The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater and The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. So I think that if you like one, you will like the other. I will talk a little bit about what these 2 are about after I tell you my 3rd recommendation, and that is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. Now, all of these hold very magical plots. We all know what The Raven Boys is about. I believe that we do. It's about a girl named Blue, and she lives with psychics, and they tell her that when she has her first kiss with the love of her life, he will die. And she meets these group of boys, and they're searching for the Raven King, and there's ley lines, and it's just incredible. Now, The Rules of Magic is the prequel to Practical Magic, and The Rules of Magic is the story of the aunts and their brother, and how they lose their parents, and how they're growing up, and obviously it's about their magic and how they're witches, and it's so beautiful. And I listened to that on audiobook, which I highly recommend because it was stunning. Winterwood is about Nora, and Nora is a witch, and all of the witches before her lived in this same house, and they lived in near the Winterwood, and you can only enter the Winterwood during certain cycles of the moon. And she goes in and she collects lost things, and she ends up finding a boy who she thinks is dead, but he turns out is alive, and his name is Oliver. And it is the story about them. Basically, they're snowed in this like I think they're on like these mountains or something. It is an incredibly gorgeous story. This made my favorites list, and I highly recommend that you pick this up when it comes out in November. So if you're a fan of either of these books, you will definitely want to pick up Winterwood when it comes out in November. All three involve magic and witches, and just all three are written so lyrically and poetic. And if you like one writing style, I think you will also like the other. Besides just the story being incredible, I think you would like the writing style. Or if you liked The Raven Boys and you haven't read The Rules of Magic, vice versa, I highly recommend picking that up. All three of these are just such powerful, beautiful, magical stories, and I think you guys will love them. So that is it for if you like this, then you will like this. I know I moved through that pretty quickly. I mean, we don't really need to just listen. If you like this book, pick this one up, okay? Because you will like it. If you have any recommendations for me, please leave those down below. And as always, if you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Tap the bell to be notified when I upload new videos. And I just hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye!